This is the Mets POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
A weird day off the field turned into a weird day on the field for the New York Mets as they lose the second game of this series to the Minnesota Twins by a final score of 6-3. A ninth inning rally falls short for the Mets. Welcome into the Mets Postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and in the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I am your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the season to break it all down, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this was a meh game for the New York Mets. We would probably classify this as the bad or at times the ugly for the New York Mets. Not a whole lot doing offensively. The pitching gets tagged in this game. Errors defensively. Didn't have the timely hitting when they needed it. Just an all-around poor performance for the Mets in the second game of this series. And we will break it all down for you here over the course of this postcast. But let's start with the big topic from today's game. And it started before the game, but then it kind of appeared during the game today.
This is what you'll be talking about.
What did everybody want to talk about today? Social media wanted to talk about it. Aaron Judge was asked about it. I had a phone call from my dad this morning about it. Everybody wanted to talk about the comments from Juan Soto about the protection in the lineup and having Aaron Judge behind him and the fact that it was different this time around with Pete Alonso behind him. And everybody up in arms about what Juan Soto had to say, maybe thinking it was disrespectful of Pete Alonso, thinking that it wasn't a good look for Juan Soto when he is struggling at the early part of the season. Well, if there is one takeaway from this game tonight in the positive column for the New York Mets, it's that you know who that story didn't bother during this game? That would be Juan Soto and Pete Alonso, the direct subjects of that story. Juan Soto hit a home run for the second straight game. And, oh, by the way, Pete Alonso also went yard in this game, his fifth home run of the season, now up to 20 RBIs. So not bothering them where they are in the lineup, not bothering them the protection and how they're being pitched, and not as big of a story as maybe local sports talk media and maybe Mets Twitter tried to make that today. I found that story quite laughable today, and you could tell how much it impacted those guys. Pete Alonso, another two-hit night. He has 12 extra base hits to start the season, the 5 home runs and 7 doubles. So Pete Alonso picking up right where he left off yesterday, which is picked up right where he left off the days before that. He has just been hot, still hitting 356 here through the first part of the season. You see it there on the sidebar, the seesaw of baseball. It was just yesterday that the New York Mets made this Twins lineup look foolish. 13 strikeouts in the game yesterday by Mets pitching, and they had this Twins team baffled. Today, a completely different story. 6 runs on 13 hits for the Minnesota Twins. They got to Tylor Megill. It will help defensively. A bad play by Francisco Lindor leads to a run, extends an inning. Got to Max Kranick really for the first time this season. So a day after you strike out 13 times and you don't look like an offense that can score a whole bunch, you have 2 guys leave this game. Wallner and Correa leave with injuries. Still not a problem for this Twins team as they pile up 13 hits and score 6 runs. It wasn't the cleanest start from Tylor Megill. The first couple of innings, he looked okay, but did get into some 2-out trouble. Small trouble on the trouble scale, but got out of that. And then it was the third inning where things kind of went off the rails for him. And on a day, a series where this team needs length, they didn't get length today from Tylor Megill. The final line for him, 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 4 runs, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. That third inning, we'll get back to it a little bit later on in the show. But a weird third inning, a home run that wasn't a home run, an out that the Mets maybe should have gotten but didn't get because of the way the umpire called the play. Just a whole host of weirdness for today for the New York Mets. And, oh, by the way, this is one of the rare postcasts where we're going to be paying very close attention to the post-game press conference and the post-game comments from Carlos Mendoza because there's some roster changes coming as well. So we'll try to get to all of that hopefully here during the postcast. And if it doesn't happen while we're breaking down this game, obviously Ryan has you covered on the Locked On Mets podcast with all of the roster moves that this team will make. Want to get into the turning point in this game, the third inning where things kind of went off the rails and what changes may or may not be coming here for the New York Mets. And we will get to that here on the other side. The NBA playoffs are almost here. In fact, play-in tournament starting tonight as we are doing this postcast. FanDuel giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. From three-pointers to steals, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into those player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets in a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Got the playoffs in basketball and hockey about to start, and they're heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Back here on the Mets postcast on the Locked On Mets pod YouTube channel and podcast feed. Chris Schubert here with you, and I see some comments. I see Beck in the YouTube chat talking about Lindor's at bat and the swing to end it. The Mets tried to rally there in the ninth inning, got some help from the Twins defensively to even allow Lindor to get that at bat. The Mets did bring the tying run to the plate there in the ninth inning, and if you are dreaming up a scenario of the guys you want up in that spot, it's Francisco Lindor, it's Juan Soto, it's Pete Alonso. Sometimes that's going to happen. Sometimes Francisco Lindor is going to come through in those moments, and other times he is not. And it was a tough night for Francisco Lindor. Obviously that at bat, but also the error in the third inning that allowed a run to score. And you know, we very rarely do this. We normally save this for when the team wins, we pick out a turning point, but I do think there was a turning point in the loss for the Mets tonight.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
It was that third inning, and we'll just break it down for you moment by moment. It's an infield hit that Bader gets on base for, a line out for the first out. Bader steals second. Buxton singles, but the ball's hit in an area where Bader's got to wait on it. So now you've got first and third. A squeeze play because the Twins had a pinch hitter in for Wallner, who left the game after running out a grounder and pulling up with what I believe was a hamstring injury. So a pinch hitter into the game. They bunt, pops up to Megill. So you've got 2 outs. The game is still 1-0 at this point. So you're thinking to yourself, Megill might be able to get out of this trouble. He had 2-out trouble in the first, 2-out trouble in the second. And here, some trouble in the third. Looks like he might be able to escape. He might be able to get away with that leadoff single to Harrison Bader on an infield hit. But it is a ground ball to Francisco Lindor that just kind of runs up his glove, doesn't field it cleanly, and everybody's safe. Our run scores. It's 1-1. The next batter is Carlos Correa. He deposits a ball into center field. The Mets make a nice heads-up play and throw out Ty France at third base to end the inning, but that run does score. And the Mets, who had a 1-0 lead after Pete Alonso put them in front with his 5th home run of the season, they were down 2-1 in this game after that moment. Soto did respond right away with a home run to tie things up, but that third inning is where things kind of fell off the rails for the New York Mets, and a couple extra pitches there for Tylor Megill that kind of extended his runway a little bit. And then from there, he was able to lumber through 5 innings, but left with the Mets trailing in this one. And he had been solid up until this point, so it was tough to see him kind of have to fight through it and try to battle tonight. Eduardo in the comments calling the Mets mediocre. I don't agree. I don't agree with the team that is 11-6. a team that going into tonight was attempting to win their third straight game in a row. Tonight was attempting to win their fifth straight series in a row. Still have that opportunity tomorrow. Yeah, they struggled tonight. This was an ugly one. They only had 7 hits for a large part of this game. I think at one point I wrote down that through the first 3 innings, they just had 1 hit. It was the Pete home run. So the offense is still not clicking on all cylinders back-to-back days. They just don't have that yet. They pop off for 6 runs. Sometimes they pop off for that double-digit performance like we've seen a couple times against Miami. Here and there, they can have those big moments. But stacking them together and having all of their guys kind of have big days, back-to-back days or 3 days in a row, that's still what we're missing from this. But I don't know how you look at the last 2 nights from this Mets team, specifically Juan Soto, and say he isn't starting to turn a corner. Vientos had another hit tonight. Luis Angel Acuna has this second base job until Jeff McNeil is ready to come back. I mean, again tonight with a hit, drew a walk in this game as well. He keeps finding ways to get on base. So listen, a loss is a loss. This was a tough one. This was a self-inflicted one. A night after you strike out 13 Twins and you look dominant, you have a night like this where you give up 13 hits and you look like you're unable to do anything offensively. Yes, I understand the concern that you may have, but let's relax. Let's keep it in context. Through their first 17 games, this team is 11-6. And to Julian there in the YouTube comments, yeah, this is the big question that we have now. And it's our last bullet point here on today's show, the roster changes that are coming. In the open to the show, I said there was weirdness off the field. I mentioned the Juan Soto story in the New York Post as kind of the lead, but there was also the Griffin Canning getting scratched from his start tomorrow because of an illness. And it throws the Mets' plans into flux. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but you've got a team that's in the midst of 13 games in 13 days. We knew they were going to try to get a 6th starter in here at some point. The plan was that for that to be on Friday. Griffin Canning and his illness upends those plans. So the Mets, after tonight's game, we know are going to make a roster move. Now, this is rare. I try to be engaged with all of you, but my eyes are darting to the other screen because I want to see if there has been a move announced. And it does look like, according to Anthony DiComo, that Justin Hageman will be active for the series finale. So don't know if he's going to start or if he's going to piggyback off of maybe Jose Butto, who hasn't been used in a couple of days. But we know that the Mets are going to kind of rework their roster here a little bit. They did not place Jose Siri on the injured list because of some of the mechanics of this pitching move that they have to make. So it looks like Justin Hageman is going to be a part of this roster tomorrow. I would assume, my guess prediction here is Jose Butto will be involved in some capacity. So seeing who starts that game and who's part of the piggyback, I don't think it really matters, but I think those will be the 2 guys that the Mets will attempt to use for the first 5 or 6 innings of this game tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be a bullpen day. It's going to be a call somebody up from AAA, Syracuse kind of day to try to patchwork together in the finale of this series. But a win tomorrow puts the Mets right back on a 2 out of 3 pace. They'll take 2 out of 3 from the Twins. They will win their 5th straight series. They are still the only team in baseball to not lose back-to-back days. That streak still remains intact until they lose. Could come tomorrow, but we've seen this team after they've lost a bunch this season, 6 times before today. They have responded every single time. I know it sucks to see Francisco Lindor make a mistake like that in the field that directly leads to 2 runs. I know it sucks to watch a bunch of guys not contribute tonight. Marte was 0 for 4. Nimmo was 0 for 4. I get it. There are some holes in this lineup. It's not all firing on all cylinders, but this was a night where nothing went right for the New York Mets. Did not have the best stuff from Tylor Megill. It's kind of nibbling a little bit. Did not have the best stuff from Max Kranick. Did not have your best stuff defensively. And obviously, outside of the Soto and Alonso home runs, you didn't have a whole lot to write home about offensively as well. So overall, a rough night for the New York Mets, but it is 1 of 162, and I am not going to overreact like some people in the YouTube comments. You're entitled to your opinion. That's what we do here on the Mets Postcast, but I think we're overreacting a little bit to a rough night at the office. These things happen over the course of a 162-game baseball season. If you stack days like this together, yeah, then we start to talk about problems. But Juan Soto looks like he's coming out of his shell, and it might be a breakout, might really be incoming. Because, again, it was still a 1-for-4 night for him with the home run. Still hasn't had that huge big-time performance. So that's still coming. Pete's still hitting really well. Acuna has this second base job on lock until Jeff McNeil is back. So not all hope is lost here for the New York Mets, despite the rough go of it tonight against the Twins. So don't know who's going to start tomorrow. Normally, I leave you with a pitching matchup. It will be David Festa on the other side of things for the Minnesota Twins. For the Mets, could be Jose Butto, could be Justin Hageman. Don't know who's going to be taking the mound. It's going to be one of those two guys is my guess. The other guy will piggyback off of that guy, and the Mets will try to make sure that they remain the only team in Major League Baseball this season that has yet to lose back-to-back games, and they will look to finish off their 5th straight series win, and they will look for their bats to heat back up. But a tough one tonight for the Mets as they fall 6-3. And it's not like they didn't have the opportunities. The Twins tried to gift them a rally in the 9th, and they were unable to plate any runs. They had some opportunities in the 5th. They were only able to get 1 run off of a Winker sac fly. So another night in which they squandered some of the opportunities that they had throughout the game, and it ends in a loss for the New York Mets. So some roster tinkering that will occur overnight. A opener bullpen day for the Mets. The first time we've seen that this season. We'll see that tomorrow, and hopefully we will see a New York Mets victory. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you know when we go live here with these Mets postcasts after each and every Mets game. A bit of a programming note, no postcast for me tomorrow. I was texting with Ryan a little bit earlier. Looks like he's going to have you covered. I've got these day games. They interrupt some stuff. So no postcast for me tomorrow. Ryan should have you covered the moment the game is over. If not, the next time you will hear from me is that first game of the Cardinals series. But the Mets dropped this one tonight. Everything kind of goes sideways. The defense, the pitching, the lack of offense, it all culminates in a 6-3 loss to the Minnesota Twins. But that's going to do it for us here on this edition of the Mets Postcast. Appreciate everybody joining us after this tough one for the Mets. And hopefully tomorrow they can rally and make it 5 series wins in a row. But that's going to do it for us here. As always, appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.